it was just a mistake I heard. But,
Yeah.
But still, there should have been other people that,
Yeah, true.
it was like, oh, well, one day you don't want that to happen.
Yeah, Ginge grew up with us in my group. So, probably until we were about 20.
Wow.
Yeah. So, wild stories with Ginge.
Well, didn't he have a fight with Packer in the...
He was Kerry Packer's godson, you know that?
I didn't know.
Yeah,
I
he's
didn't know.
Kerry Packer's godson. That's where he got all his money from. So he only inherited it after Kerry had passed away. Kerry left him a fortune, yeah.
Kerry's got some great stories.
Yeah, and I remember James Packer and what's the other guy, the other rich kid that hung around with him? Murdoch.
Yes.
Yeah, Lachlan. It was Lachlan's 18th.
Yep.
And they were friends. They were all friends because they were all related, right? And then I got invited to go to Lachlan's 18th, right?
Right.
And they sent a limo to pick us up at Bondi. So Gin said, "Be at my house at 7:30." And then right at the last moment, the taxi took...
Are we recording it? Yeah. I hope so. Keep it going.
The taxi took forever to actually turn up at my place. And I'm like, hurry up, man, I got to be at this. And as I pulled up, the limo took off in front of us. And I went, oh, my God. And I saw them all in the back of the limo. I'm like, follow that limo. And we just got lost in the traffic. And I'm like, that was my opportunity to be at like Lachlan's 21st. Wow. Yeah, so I went home in the same taxi, just bummed out, going, oh, damn it.
Mixed with some...
And it was the night of all nights, the boys said, yeah. So as you can imagine. Yeah.
Teza McKenna, thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Mate, I'm sick of the sight of you, actually. You're on the live show.
It's like that.
Last year.
Yeah.
You enjoyed yourself that night, didn't you?
I had a ball. I think the concept is really cool, and that I think I even said to you that it's the best show that's not on TV. Yeah, there it is. It was unreal, and what a incredible guests, with Bloxy and Mark. They had some incredible stories to tell. I was like wondering, it was like a sort of a tennis match at one stage, and I was like sitting in the middle just going, rightio, what am I going to add to this? But no, it worked out okay.
But it was good, and that's what it was about. It's just trying to get everyone to engage and just let everyone do the talking, which is sometimes hard. But when you've got a dynamics like that, it was just perfect. And there you are up there, banging out the Billy Idol.
Doing a bit of Billy Idol. What a classic. I painted that jacket myself.
You saw that.
Yeah. So that's funny. And Ian Walker, of course, who's my guitar sage and a bit of a musical mentor to me. So, it's been, without him, I wouldn't be anywhere, really.
Yeah, mate, you're everywhere too. Every time I get on your Instagram and stuff like that, you're promoting something. You're like the promotions man.
Yeah, I've got a few ambassadorships these days. I mean, after, what is it now, 37 or 38 years in radio, September 89, whatever that works out to be.
Yeah.
I've become, like on 2 stations, 7 days a week, twice a day, like in the morning and afternoon. So whether I like it or not, I've kind of become part of the fabric of Newcastle.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is lovely because, I love this town and I think it's the greatest city in the galaxy. So, so quite a few companies have picked me up and helped me out, financially. And I do some little videos for them and stuff for their social media. Yeah, it's cool.
Dave, I think we need to employ Teza to plug our podcast.
Yeah,
I can do that for you guys. Yeah, of course I can.
I've got to say though, you do a great job because it's in regards to promoting anything you do, and you were great for the live show, and we thank you for that.
Thank you. No, appreciate it. I think Newcastle is a testing market. Like anyone who wants to launch a new product, they bring it to Newcastle. If it doesn't work here, it's not going to work nationally. Mm-hmm. So to last this long in a town like Newcastle is it makes me feel good.
Well, I was going to get onto it a little bit later, but I mean, you're a Maroubra boy, but you came up to Newcastle. You love Newcastle, you love everything about it. Was it hard at first moving up to Newcastle, like because you're in that scene down there,
Sure.
and then you come up here and all of a sudden it's totally different.
Absolutely, yeah. I was like that kid out of Footloose, you know. It's a come from the big smoke to the small town. And I remember at that time I was pursuing a pro surfing career, and some of the locals didn't really support me with it. And I was taking a lot of their waves and some of their women.
Well, we're going to talk about that sort of culture down there a little bit later. But back to being a surf reporter, like what time do you get up in the morning? What's your normal day?
I get up 5:15 every day. I just live in Parkway Avenue, so I'm just right around the corner from the beach, so that's handy. And up at the beach around 5:30, 5:40. I zap around the beaches, do the radio surf report for Triple M and Hit 106.9. And then while I'm going around, I film for a social media website that I have myself for a surf report on social media, Teza's Newcastle Surf Report. And we've got a pretty good following. It's been going for like 12 years. So, yeah.
You're going to hate me for saying this, right? But for years I was saying to some people, Todd Sargent, I used to go, bloody surf reports. Like, how many people need to have that surf report? How many surfers are in the water? Because there's so many people in Newcastle and the Hunter. And I reckon there's more teeing off at golf clubs than being in the water. But I think it's a real feel-good thing, isn't it? When people are listening to what the waves are like, it's almost like they're going to work going, oh.
It's a bit like that. I thought I would have been superseded when the surf cams came out, you know, in the sort of mid-90s. And I thought, well, people are just going to look for themselves and there goes my job. But I think that it's a bit more than that. Like you said, it's a lifestyle kind of report. The other thing is that with the radio stations, so much of the station is network these days that the radio station, to maintain their license, they have to have a certain amount of local content. And part of that comes from traffic reports and surf reports. Right. So that's pretty cool. Yeah. You know, so that sort of secured me my job. But at the Christmas parties, when we have listener Christmas parties with Tenya and Steve Jingleball or whatever, you know, people come up to me and go, Teza, oh my God, I've been listening to you since I was a kid, you know, and they say, but I have no idea what you're saying because I don't surf, but I just love how you say it. and I love that you love it and you can tell that you love it. And I just drive to work and I think, oh, God, that guy's got a good life.
How many times have you been like talking to someone in the street or somewhere and so it's almost like people hear your voice and they just know?
Yeah, it's impossible to hide from now. It's, it's pretty characteristic voice. You know, that's how it all started, I guess, really, with Mike Webb hearing me read an ad for Pacific Dreams and going, hey, come and see me in the office, you know, before you leave. And he said, you've got a really unique voice. And if somebody heard that, they would know your voice if they heard it again. And that's what we're looking for in radio. So, it's funny like that, but I can't hide from it.
I always think of surf reporters and jockeys.
Because they talk like this.
Exactly.
She's a good horse.
Yeah.
Heart as big as Far Lap.
Exactly. It's probably like a nose full of salt water as well, you know.
Well, you were a bit of a horse person as well, aren't you?
Like I was, I come from a big family of racing horses and just horses in general. In fact, I rode a horse to school, Marty, my horse, every day of my schooling life from about third class until year 10. And I used to ride it with no saddle and no bridle, right? So dig that. This is just a piece of rope wrapped around its neck, and I'll be galloping down the medium strip at Bunnerong Road, like on the way to Morris Brothers, racing the school bus, you know. And, they'd have shoes on and it was concrete. And I was just thinking, like, you know.
The late 70s e-bike.
Yes, exactly. The H-bike. Yeah, it was classic. But, hang
on, you go to school with a horse. Where do you put it?
I put it across the road, and there were luckily at wherever, both schools that I went to, or all three schools, like primary school. Then I had like a junior high school, like at Daysville, a year 5 and 6 before you go to high school. They tried it out. It was a system that like America uses, but it didn't really work here in Australia. But yeah, I did that, and all three schools had a big park right across the road with lots of grass. And all the kids got to know Marty, and so they'd bring carrots and, lettuce and anything that they could think of that, like, hey, save that for the horse. I'll take you to school tomorrow, you know.
About asking how to girl, how good it's like having, something in your back pocket. Look at this. Do you want to ride my horse?
Yeah, I used to go and pick up girls for a date with the horse. Yeah, it was funny. Yeah, the mind boggles, doesn't it?
But most of the time, Tez went home as the Lone Ranger.
Exactly. You're not wrong. Absolutely. Yeah. Tell me about it.
Mate, Bali. There's a flight. You can go to Bali from Newcastle now. How many times have you been to Bali?
Yeah, I think that was my 18th trip. I went recently for my son's wedding.
Yep.
And we had a beautiful time out at the Sky Billion at Balangan. Yeah, there we go. That was me. Look at that. Look, that's what you wear to a wedding in Bali.
Just quietly, I think your son's punching too.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's his wife, Angie. She's gorgeous. And that's my daughter, Lani. With Lani's got all the ink on her. She looks like she's been rolling in wet comics. Yeah, she's got a few tattoos. But yeah, it was such a beautiful day. And 22 of us went over and stayed in a big lodgement and hung out together. And we're all catching up again on Boxing Day for a sort of a reunion. Yeah, wedding reunion.
Yeah.
It'd be good, really nice.
What do you love about Bali?
I love the everything about it. The people, the culture. The waves, the weather, the food, everything about it. I went there first trip 79 and it was a jungle and there was just Kuta, there was BMO Corner, it was a little roundabout and there was probably 5 or 6 shops going in either direction and then that's it. Then it was just palm trees. So
is it a bit like, people have a go at the surfers paradise, people go, back in the 70s and early 80s, the surface was great, even the 60s,
Sure.
Where now they don't like it. Do you think Bali's changed for the worse?
I think, it's, call it progress.
Yeah.
But if I could, I would rewind and keep it the same as it was when I first found it. When we walked into Uluwatu and Padang, like 2 of the best waves on that Bakut Peninsula, we walked down to Padang. There was no road down there. You had to walk along the cliff tops and risk your life to get down to the beach. And then surf like perfect waves all day with nobody out drinking coconut juice from a coconut. Yeah. And it was just beautiful times. Absolutely.
You mentioned that Box Beach is your favourite though.
Yeah, Box Beach is really my favourite. When I moved from Maroubra, I moved up to Fingal Bay with my folks and at the time I was the state junior surfing champion. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I really didn't want to leave Maroubra because Maroubra, as we all know, is a very tight-knit community. Mm-hmm. And I grew up in the north end, so I was right amongst it. And when I got to the Bay, I wasn't that well received. Didn't have any friends up there and stuff. And I thought, oh, golly. And then one day I was surfing at Zenith Beach, is where, just on Tomaree when you look down. Yeah. And surfing Zenith, and one of the local guys go, you like the tube, don't you, mate? And I said, yeah. And he goes, just around the corner there, 2 little beaches. He said, there's this little wedgie wave that you would bloody love. And I went, right, well, what's it work on? And he told me. And a couple of days later, those conditions came on. And I remember walking over the fire trail from Flannel Flower Fairway, what it was called, up the top over the fire trail to come in because there's no track in there back in those days. Yeah. And I remember the first glimpse of Boxy that I had was like just this most perfect left-hander with a big blowout, no one out. It was one of the most incredible things I've ever seen. So I just started running and then I brought all the Maroubra boys up for a couple of years. It was almost like my training ground and my own personal wave. It was like a wave pool for me. Yeah, a couple of locals, but not many.
Is it important for surfers to I suppose to go to lots of different breaks to make them a better surfer? I mean, there's always been that thing with Merriweather where there's some surfers that come from there. They're unbeatable at Merriweather. Yeah, they go anywhere else, they struggle.
It can be like that. Yeah, I remember when I was growing up in Maroubra, Tom Carroll was the world champion, and Tom came from Newport, and with Mike Tremlow and Mike Newling and all these other incredible guys were on the world tour, all from Newport. And what happened was, we saw them turn up at Maroubra one day when it was like 1 foot and onshore, and we all said, "What are you guys doing here? It'd be better back home." And they said, "We're driving around to find the worst surf available, because they were going to a wave pool event in Texas back in the day." And they said, "So we need to get used to it." So, it is important to do that. And surfing Boxy every day did spoil me a lot. I was good on left-handed barrels in getting tubed. It was like my strong point because of the, my affiliation with the break.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
I was listening to something the other day. It was an interview with Gary Elkington, Kong.
Yeah.
And he said the same thing. He goes, he loved the big waves. He said, but we were always, when it was in competition, we were always surfing on flat shit, and it was always sort of hard. He goes, and now you see some of the places they go on the world tour. He goes, I would have loved to have been there.
Yeah, absolutely. And I was lucky enough Gary and I were in the Australian team for the world titles. He was a junior at the same time. I think it was 1980. It was that year that I won the state title. So by winning the state title, I got the right to be in the Australian team to go to California to Huntington Beach for the world titles. And Kong was in the team. And we got there, and I remember Brooksy, the manager, I said to him, we're at the airport at LA, and I said, oh, look, there's another Australian team here, because I saw someone with the green and gold on. And he goes, oh, my God, shit. I said, what? And he goes, that's South Africa. They're not supposed to be here. Oh. And it had Martin Potter in the team. He was a young 15 or 14-year-old guy. But
they were apartheid.
It was apartheid. It was. And so we spoke to the government and said, well, South Africa here. And they said, well, you guys aren't competing. So it was a real letdown for us. But we they gave us this thing called the Chuck Dent surf vehicle. It was like an old yellow American school bus. And they said, just take it to Mexico. So we just piled in. There was like 6 or 8 of us and a couple of managers. And we headed to Mexico for like 2 weeks of absolute joy and good surf and stuff. Yeah, but I never got to compete for Australia. I still got the jumper with the Australian thing on it. But, they robbed me of the chance of it. But for the right reasons, because, you know, we all hate the way, you know, that those people were treated. So
yeah. Well, if I was doing surf reports, I'd be still walking around Merriweather with that Australian top on, man. So look at this.
It's all like moth written and stuff. Yeah, so it's still hanging in one piece.
It's like the AFL, you know, they get the All-Australian team, but they can't play another country. So it's like, hey, you know, this is the best we can do.
Yeah, that's right.
Just hopping back off the surfboard, but you're going around the place, because recently you did some gigs. Well, not so much a gig. You turned up to a place where Craig McLaughlin was playing.
That's right.
And then he just gets you up.
He summoned me up on the stage, which was a real treat, and I didn't expect it. But Vanessa recognised me because I'd friended them on Facebook and stuff, and I saw Craig on your first show, and so I followed him after that, you know, because I've always been a huge fan. I love that guy and everything he stands for. But, you know, and so she recognised me and then went up and whispered to him at halftime. And so, you know, second half of the show, he comes out and he goes, hey, guess what? Teza's here. And calls me up, which was pretty cool, to sing a song, Sweet 16 Billy Idol. And he'd never played it before.
Yeah.
And neither had Dave or the bass player. So they just had a go at it, and then it came out okay.
The very next week you turn up to the Mary Ellen.
Yeah.
And same thing. Is this becoming a thing where you just bloody, you turn up to a place and go, Teza's here, get up.
If the band knows a Billy Idol song and they know that I'm there, they know that I'm always up for it. So, and they'll rip me up. So this is with Brian McVernon and the Cassettes are an incredible band. Yeah, so Brian was actually the first guy to recognise that I could sort of be a Billy Idol tribute guy. And I've always been friends with him right through his whole career. Yep. And he had friends that I had friends in bands that were, you know, playing in his bands and stuff. So he said to me, he goes, mate, I'd like to do a Billy Idol tribute night at Lizottes for you. This is where it all started, back 2020, just off the back of COVID. So, that was that. And Brian got me going with his band, and it was an awesome night. And he kind of kickstarted the whole thing. So I'm, you know, forever grateful to Brian McVernon for that.
What's your what's your old surf mates think about your change of career?
Yeah, they crack up about it because, it's the most unlikely sort of, lane change that you could imagine for someone in their 60s. But
Would you have been embarrassed to have told? Like, was it something you always wanted to do, and you just picked a time to do it? It was just the right time, or years ago, would you have been embarrassed to have done that?
Yeah, I don't know if I would have been in the right frame of mind for it. I guess back in the day, I probably would have been too self-conscious about it.
And I don't mean embarrassed by doing it. I mean embarrassed by like telling your mates, I'm going to do something different. And what are you doing?
Yeah, exactly. No, they would say, you're the surf guy, just, stay in your lane, kind of thing. But it all I was in a band when I was at school, and we were a Generation X tribute band, which is Billy Idol before he went solo. So we were called GX, and then I was, and then my dad moved away, and we just left Maroubra suddenly, and so I left the band. And 2015, we had a big reunion, and these three guys come up and stood next to me at the reunion and went, hey, and I just thought, what are these old creeps hanging around me for? And they said, who are we? And I went, I don't know. And they went, well, we're the band. I went, oh my God, you guys are. And they, like 45 years later or whatever.
Yeah.
And they said, we've been traveling the world, and we're professional musicians, and we've done really well out of it. And we just wanted to say that you're a good frontman, man. You should have stayed in music. And I went, right. And then when, COVID hit, I lost my job on the World Surf League as a commentator, and everything just came to a grinding halt. And I just went back to the surf reports, and that's all I could do. And I thought, well, I'm just going to pick up the guitar and try and bang out a couple of Billy Idol songs and see if I still remember this stuff. And that's how it all got reinvented from that moment.
If you weren't Billy Idol, who would you be?
That's a good question, isn't it? I don't know. Maybe Elvis. Probably look more like him now. The old Elvis.
Break into some Elvis, and this will make the promo.
Yeah. I wish I could.
Wise men.
Yeah, that's it. You got it down. Yeah.
Also, too, recently, a good friend of yours, David Bambi Campbell, passed away. And one thing I really love about, when an old surfer, sadly passes away, you just have this great tribute, like a paddle out and all that stuff. I think we got some stuff out here, but emotional stuff, isn't it?
It is, and it's such a beautiful way to send someone off. Funerals are expensive and they're gloomy. And if someone's a surfer, it's a long-standing Hawaiian tradition.
Yeah.
And years ago, I got asked to put one together for Steve Butterworth when Steve passed away. He was a really great friend of mine. And then Steve Matthews, and then Chad Rogers, and just everyone who's been a surfer, who's been in my friend circle, who's fallen so far. I've been lucky enough to MC their paddle out. And so, we put on a really good show for Bambi, and lots of people turned up. Probably 200 people. Yeah, there we go. And this was like a guard of honor that we formed at the Cliff. The Cliff was Bambi's place. He was a local there. So, we got everyone to stand with their boards walking down, and it was just such a beautiful moment.
Yeah.
Everyone tapping their boards and cheering away. That's Bambi's board, by the way, his last board in wetsuit. And they all went out for a paddle out, and then everyone comes in, and then someone pushes Bambi's board onto the last wave. It's his last ride in front of everyone. You chuck flowers in the water. Yeah. While you're out there, you sit together and you form a circle. You say some cool stuff, and then you splash up his ashes and everything. So it's a beautiful, it's a beautiful way to say goodbye to someone.
There's a real camaraderie, isn't there, in the surf world in regards to mateship?
There is. I think part of that comes from the fact that there's a element of risk in surfing, not just from hurting yourself in big waves and drowning in that, but also with sharks and that, obviously, which is getting a lot worse these days. But
can you see this is the only?
I can.
This is the only surf.
I saw it when I walked in.
The only surfing shirt I've got.
Yeah.
Right.
It's the 50.
And this is pretty much the reason I don't surf.
It was almost kept me out of the water for a couple of years. It was the 50th anniversary this year of Jaws, the original movie. Yeah. So we went to the opening of the Tower
Cinemas, yeah.
Yeah, we did a funny little video with my girlfriend Sharon. We were always sort of dressing up, doing crazy stuff.
I saw that. I remember actually going there. I think it would have been Jaws 3. It was 3D. It had the glasses.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, but but because of all that, I think it's a tight knit community surfing because we're kind of risking it a bit. Yeah, you know, but you got to risk it to get the biscuit.
What's
right?
what's the of your cliches? What's the closest you ever got from getting a nip?
Plenty of times. I'd be out. I remember in the old days, back in the early 80s, when I was at the Bay, and I was like one of the first hardcore kind of guys that would go out on rainy days at North Samurai when there was no one around, and you'd walk in by yourself, and I'd be out in the water, surfing these unreal waves, and I just had. I don't know whether like you could smell it or you could hear it or one of my other senses would pick it up, but I'd be having a great time, and I just all of a sudden just get this gut feeling, and I go, ooh, and I'd look on the beach to see if anyone felt like someone was looking at me. And then I'd think, oh no. And then I'd start looking around, and then of course, there you'd see it, and then in you'd go. But I've had a couple of close calls, one in Middleton in South Australia, where a shark basically did a U-turn right around me, like a massive 3.5 meter something, just a monstrous thing, like a car going underneath me. It was so scary. Never paddled so fast in my life. So,
but most of the time, a lot of time you used to go out there in that pitch black. The last thing I'd be doing.
Yeah, in the old days, you go for the early and the late, but I think people are rethinking that now because sadly the shark population is, this is booming. It's not getting better. It's getting worse.
But you're saying that too. I reckon, I've got a theory, I reckon you've got a more chance of getting bitten in the lake than at the surf, because it's almost like it's a fishbowl, and there's a lot in the lake.
And the bull sharks are going into the lakes now, like they never did before, and they're going right up the rivers to places where there's 5% salt water.
Yeah.
So it is a problem. But
remember there was a sighting in Throsby Creek years ago.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I still remember it. It made the news. But with the protection of sharks and the glorification of sharks, it's sad. I remember when Mercury passed away, and I was good friends with Mercury Salakis, like in his family, mainly his brother, who's a shaper, Mike. But when Merc got taken at DY recently, they went around with the camera and spoke to people, and I interviewed people and said, do you think that a shark's life is more important than human life? And some people said yes, and said that you shouldn't go into their domain because this is like where they live and all that. And I thought, well, hang on, we're in the Corso at Manly, wasn't it? There used to be like, red-bellied black snakes and koalas and stuff, right?
Yeah.
So what's the difference, right? I mean, we're the alpha species on the planet. So I think I hope that technology will fix this in the future, Michael. I think what will happen is you'll have buoys that are connected together that create like some kind of, shield, electronic shield that will stop sharks from coming into I think technology will be the answer to all of this in the future.
I think when I was at Channel 10, when I was actually doing the package on the surfing, and I was watching it when Mick Fanning.
I was watching it as well,
and I'm just like, I'm watching, going, what's going on? And everyone's just like, because everyone was into it, they're watching it. They go, was that a fucking shark? And it was like, I think it was, and it was just like, holy shit.
He almost got taken in on live TV on a live webcast, and that's always a risk. I mean, when I was working for the WSL, they have protocol for this stuff, so they just go to an ad break and never come back. But it's a bit of an issue. Wave pools are fixing that just quietly. Much safer, but very expensive.
Yeah, but you said something to me a few weeks ago that those pools it's just like the same wave all the time, and to the point where you feel like you're commentating on the same thing but on a loop.
Yeah. It's it takes away from the randomness. Now, one of the beautiful things about surfing is the inconsistency of the ocean. You'll get 3 or 4 waves come through, it'll be flat for a while. One comes in by itself, and then it's another 2 minutes. And so, there's no real perfect sequence to it. And what that does is lends itself to some really exciting finishes in pro surfing. So someone might be paddling out, they need a wave, and it just pops up on the inside, and they get the score that they need. And that's what makes it really exciting, particularly from a commentary standpoint. But when every wave is identical, my friend, when we first watched the first wave pool event for the World Surf League, we sat down, we got a popcorn and our beer in, and we went, wow, this is awesome. It's the history-making moment for pro surfing. Yeah. And after about 2 heats, he turned and said to me something really funny. He said, "This is like eating a kilo of Frankfurts." You know, like first couple were okay. After that, it sucked. We ended up turning it off and just, putting some music on and stuff. So it doesn't really interest me. I think what will happen in the future with wave pools, you'll have stadium surfing. So they'll get the concept that they have now with their shitty little 2.5 foot wave that they've got or whatever it is. And they'll blow that up by 3 times, probably in Dubai or somewhere where they've got the money to.
Yeah.
And you'll have it'll be like Marathon Stadium with the wave pool in the middle of it.
I think there's a few new ones that's just recently opened too in
The
Australia.
technology, there's a few really cool technologies out there now. The Kelly Slater one was the original one, of course, and it's still almost the best. But now what they're doing is being able to change the way the angle of the wave and create that randomness that we talked about with the ocean, building that into the algorithms of the wave machines, which is really cool.
Yeah.
At Elk Architecture, we don't just design buildings, we shape the spaces where life happens. From concept to construction, our award-winning architects bring our vision to life with precision, passion, and purpose. Whether it's your dream home or your next big commercial project, trust Elk Architecture to build what matters most. Elk Architecture, designed for life, built for the future.
Just before well before you went on The Voice, you were on another show, sort of like you could call it a game show, but it was a dating show.
Yeah.
Perfect Match.
Wow.
Before we show this, how did that come about?
I put my name down and they, I didn't hear from them for a couple of months. And then my friend came up to the bay and we were hanging out and the phone rang and it was Channel 10, I think at the time, maybe had it.
Yeah.
And they said, hey, is that Teza? And I said, yeah. And they said, listen, a contestant has actually pulled out of today's show. Are you able to make it to the Artarmond or wherever it was for the studio to make it down here for a 7:30 shoot? And I went, and it was about 2:30. My mate goes, yes. And so we got in his old E8 and we just flogged it down the highway and got there just in time. So it sort of came out of nowhere. And I was on the first show, so that always makes it hard because they film like 1 week in a row. Yeah. And so I was on the Monday show. So
but you weren't the you were like the three that sits behind the panel.
Yeah, that's right.
And there was a lady on the other side.
That's right.
Asking you questions.
Yeah. I think that show would work again now. It's about time for it, right?
Do you remember any questions you were given?
Yeah. If you were to put a sign on the side of the road to make girls notice you, what would it say? I think I said Richard Gere ahead. And the guy who got the right answer, he said, huge hump ahead. But let me tell you where he got that from. There's the warm-up guy who does the audience beforehand. He's a comedian. And he came into the studio and he said, right, we're going to read the questions to you and give you a rough, couple of minutes to think about your answers, right? And so the guy who won, he got 2 questions right and I got 1 out of 3. So she picked him. But all 3 of his responses were stolen from the comedian. So he just used the examples that guy gave. And I was like, that's not fair.
Well, we got so you didn't get picked. So we got the vision. It's very quick here.
Yeah.
Enjoys playing tennis and having fun. Say hello to Terry McKenna.
Yeah, look, she looks back at me. Wait for it. She's like, maybe I made the wrong mistake. She hated this dude. They used to do a...
you got beaten for an accountant.
I
honestly.
know. Yeah, exactly, with a monobrow. And, what happened was we used to have the Perfect Match Christmas parties, every year after that, and you'd always be invited along. So I went down there afterwards and I saw her at the thing and she came and saw me and said, I made the worst decision. I had the horrible time. Because you watched the comeback show. Yeah. And so they hated each other from the get-go. But anyway, not to worry. Another one that got away from me, Michael.
So you got back on your horse and you set off into the sunset.
Literally.
Surfest, close to your heart, you were doing it for many, many years, weren't you?
Yeah. I was originally a contestant way back in '85 for the first 2 or 3 years. I think I surfed in it, so that was cool.
That would have been a thrill, but being on you.
Oh wow! On that first year that we had the BHP Steel International, richest surf comp in the world, with Ockin, Tom Curran, and Sean Thompson, and Buzzy Kerbox, and all the heroes that we grew up with at that time. It was just incredible. And Newcastle had 30,000 people on the beach, and Newcastle Beach is such a natural amphitheatre for the contest.
And the bloody prize money, that was the biggest purse in world surf, which blows my mind.
It was. And it was, it's BHP. I mean, it's nothing to those guys, but it was a big check for surfing. And it was a landmark moment. And it was something that really kind of, prior to that, we were a bit of a young normie town, and Mark had won his 4 world titles. And so he'd brought a bit of notoriety for surfing to Newcastle. But I think Surfest is what really cemented Newcastle as a surf town, and that's probably part of the reason I'm still a surf reporter on commercial radio, really.
Just on the prize money, I watched a clip only this morning. It was the 2SM Coca-Cola bottlers competition. Yeah, and it was 1981. Yeah. I think Kerbox won it. Yeah. But $22,000 for the winner back in 1981.
Yeah.
Knowing the surfers, you'd be like, was going to fuck around for the next 6 months until he surf again with that money.
That's right. That was a lot of money back then, believe it or not. So I remember they had a competition that year that Buzzy won it, because I went down. I back then it was a different tour. Now you've got the qualifying tour, and then you've got the Challenger Series, and then you've got the World Championship Tour. So it's 3-tiered. Back then, when it was the IPS International Pro Surfing Tour, it was just one tour. So it was just one big contest. So what they do is they get the top 16 guys in the world, and they'd seed them into the final 16 round, or the round of 32, and then there would be 350 people in the contest, and you had to fight your way through up to try and surf against the best guys in the world. And so, making a main event was a huge thing as an aspiring pro surfer. I got to make the main event at the Stubbies and the Coke Surf About and a few other ones during my time, so it was really cool. Yeah.
Tell us about you had to interview Mark Richards on a surfboard at the back. Was that 1989?
It would have been around then, yeah.
There's a funny story there.
Yeah, well, New FM used to have a tower down at Newcastle Beach, and we used to broadcast live with Garth and Steve and JPY and all the different breakfast teams. And they said to me, mate, we want to get you on a jet ski, and while we're having the world champions do their thing, we want to send you out on a jet ski, and we're going to give you a cordless microphone, and you can interview Mark Richards. And I went, oh, okay, well, is it waterproof? And they said, no, we're going to put a condom on it. And anyway, so when they put this condom over the microphone and tied a little thing in it like a balloon so it was waterproof, it had a big nib on the end of it, that was sticking out. And so I remember when Mark came over to the edge of the jet ski, and I had to put it right close into his mouth to interview him. And I'm thinking, this is one of the most awkward moments in pro surfing history right now. Because I had such I was in such awe of MR, he's the king of Newcastle,
and you walk up and you paddle up and interview him with a condom.
Yeah, and had to stick it right in his mouth. I said, get it close, because it's got the rubber over it. Anyway, yeah. Sorry, Mark.
Just on Surfest though, let's be honest. Yeah, you got ditched in the end.
I was a bit sad. Yeah, I took the year off to go to The Voice, and came back the following year and reached out to the guys and said, I'm back and ready to roll. And they said, well, thanks for your services, but they're no longer required. Which was a bit of a bummer. It took a little while for me to swallow that bitter pill, but no hard feelings. And I am just glad that I was on the microphone there for 30-something years, and I helped to create a good vibe around the event, and was there for some real history-making moments. And it was really cool. Yeah, there you go. That's way back. Look at the hairy chest.
Man.
What a classic with the earring, and that was a bit
like Vanilla Ice.
Oh no, exactly. Yeah, I don't know what that is rolled up in my duds, but anyway, now that's the heat drawer, I think. So that was me just cruising around the beach, sweating it out at a Surfest one time. But
so you more or less had to say, you couldn't say anything, could you, that you're going on The Voice, which is probably the reason why they said they want to go to be dark. I mean, as an employer or something, you could probably see you know,
Yeah.
even though after you've probably come back and, well, this is what happened, but, you know.
It was. I remember they reached out to me and said, "You're right to go again this year," because that's all they'd ever do is just touch base the month before. And I go, "Yeah." Always said, "Yeah." And then I said, "Like, I can't do it. I'm tied up in Sydney," and I couldn't really say anything because I was on a 21-page confidentiality agreement. And at that point, I'd already been through the auditions, and I knew that I was going to be on the blinds, like for the TV show. So and it just happened to fall right during that time. So it was a bit of a bummer. But look, as I said, no hard feelings. I love Surfers. I love Newcastle. I love what Warren Smith's done for the town, and he's still doing it. This year we've got the 40th anniversary of Surfest. So it's a real big one. It's a real moment for Newcastle. Yeah, it's awesome.
Dave always does a lot of surfing. He loves it, don't you?
I do a bit here and there. Yeah. Worked with Woz a bit. Yeah.
Yeah,
it's good
nice.
fun.
Yeah, good.
Yeah.
You used to work with the webcast crew, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I used to be on the webcast for a while until I think Matt Hoy gave me like a cookie one time.
Yes.
And we just started laughing, and we laughed all the way from when we opened the mics until we closed the mics. And then the next day they said, Teza, we might get you back on the beach, Mike. And that was the end of me webcast career kind of thing, yeah.
That's on brand for Matt Hoy, though.
Thanks, Hoy.
Actually reminded me of getting back to Kong. He had to surf, I think it was some sort of competition in Burleigh, and he got to the final, and a few of his mates said, let's go back to the apartment. And they were smoking bongs before this.
Sure.
And he goes, I went out in the water. He said, I struggled. He goes, I couldn't get up.
Yeah.
He said, I was killing these waves up until the final.
Yeah.
He said, and because it went for a while, I came good, but I still won it.
Yeah.
He said,
Yeah.
He has been an hour before you're on a bong.
It was funny. I mean, weed was a big part of the 80s, whether you liked it or not, And I remember I went to Huntington and I got through the first round at the OP Pro, and Shane Horan was like one of my heroes. And he came from Bondi, and I didn't really know him that much. I'd seen him around, and I knew that he was a legend, and he was coming second in the world at the time. And he was at the contest, and Gary Green and I said, let's go over and see Shane. So we went over to his room, and he was having a smoke, And I remembered how devastated I was, because I was like Mr. Pro at the time, and I was trying to be really straight and approach it like a job, and and I was like just devastated when I was watching. But then I realised that this is just the norm. Everyone's into this stuff.
So it was wonder Mr. Juicy or Orchie wasn't the sponsor of the...
No, that's right, the old Orchie bottle. That's right. And the Coke can. And a bit of hose. People, I remember reading an article in Fingal Bay, and they said the hoses are shrinking in Fingal Bay. They're not shrinking.
Well, you and Bloxy used to live there, so nothing rules that out.
Explains it.
back on Mark Richards. you do this. Back on Mark Richards. I spoke to you a few days ago in regards to this. Do we put champions on a pedestal enough? Especially, we got Mark Richards, 4-time world champion. I got over a bloody bronze statue near one of their beaches.
He deserves it. I believe it, and I think it's a great idea. Merewether is a national surfing reserve, so the actual place itself is being recognised. And the club, Merewether Surfboard Club, of course, has got more people from that club have made the world tour than any other, board riders club in the world.
Yeah.
So I think it's only fitting that Mark, he's getting to his golden years now, that like he's honoured in some way. I think, he's been so prolific for the city and such a great icon for surfing. And, from those Tui's ads, remember the Tui's ads with MR and stuff? How cool was it? But I know that in Maroubra they have a thing called the Walk of Fame, and it's kind of like a Hollywood Boulevard with the stars on the footpath, and it's kind of cool. And you walk along, and you're like, oh yeah, and there's Lisa Curry Kenny and Grant Kenny, and there's surf people, Larry Blair, who was like one of the big legends from Maroubra, and all these different people from different eras, and it's like you can go for a 2 or 3 minute walk along and just read all the different stars, and then they have a ceremony when they induct people to it, similar to to LA. So I think that kind of thing here would be really cool.
I think we need to pass a motion to the council about this.
Yeah, absolutely.
But even, I've always said this in regards to even McDonald Jones Stadium. I think, I know Andrew Johns has got a stand named after him, but Craig Johnston, soccer player down one end.
Yeah.
What he's done for soccer in Newcastle. Went overseas, played for Liverpool.
Sure.
Joey down the other. But you go to the SCG and you go around, they've got statues of Richie Beno, Don Bradman,
Absolutely.
Johnny Warren.
Yeah, Wally's up in Brisbane, all that sort of stuff. So I think it makes a lot of sense for sure.
It's funny you say that about that Tui's ad, because that was the same time when Craig Johnston was doing Tui's ads, and they were Mark and Craig's a surfer as well.
Yeah.
And they hung out together, so maybe they brokered a deal.
Yeah, there you go.
Together.
Got a 2 for 1.
But just with that, just going back to Surfest, it's Kelly Slater, Tom Curran, Mark Richards, Tom Carroll in an expression session. That's just like blows your mind, doesn't it?
It was wild. And Warren really put together some incredible promotions during that time. He had one year where I think he brought like all of the world champions together, like all of them, not since the beginning of time, but the modern champions, and it was really cool. And they used to have their big gala night at the old Newcastle Workers Club.
Yep.
And in the auditorium there, and so many. That was such a big part of Surfest as well.
Yep.
But it was really cool. But that particular one that you're talking about, that was really special because those guys were really iconic and such heroes to a whole generation.
It almost the final was on after it, but it almost sort of overtook the final, didn't it?
Without a doubt. And I think that it did in some ways overshadow that. We had a good one year where they had the battle of the sexes. It was Andy Irons versus Lane Beachley. They were in the same heat together.
Yep.
And everyone came down with the media and stuff. It was a 4-person heat. And the other 2 people were just, Brazos and a guy from somewhere, Tahiti or something. And they got first and second, and Andy got third and Lane got fourth. So it was a real kind of it was a real deflated kind of a moment. But it was good how they built it up. It was like that Billie Jean King kind of moment, It was really cool.
Yeah, because, the women do it just as well as the men, don't they?
Well, these days, there was a time when there was no women's division, and Pam Burridge, who was like an iconic pioneer for Australian women surfing, Pam used to surf in the Pro Junior, the Pepsi Pro Junior down at North Narrabeen. It was the biggest contest in the country, in the world, in fact, for under 18s. And so I made the top 8 there one year. And the year that I was in it, she was in the trials as well. And I got through the trials along with Barton Lynch and Stewie Cadden. And she was only like about 2 places behind me. She almost qualified. Wow. And I remember some of my friends got beat by her, and I never saw them again. They virtually retired.
But at the end of the day, it's the same wave, the same wave, but it's a wave you've got to surf. Whether you,
so I've seen women surfing go from that to where it is now, and in all honesty, women's surfing is going forward way faster than men's surfing because men's surfing already kind of reached that maximum performance level point almost, and they're just like inching forward, whereas the women are just like striding forward with leaps and bounds really quickly. And the fact that, women's bodies are quite flexible and that they're very stylish, it's like, surfing is like dancing on water. And so the girls have a particular style, and I really love style because style was a big thing in the 80s. Like everyone had style. Now what they do is they train the kids to surf they've worked out the best way to surf. And so now everybody just surfs like kind of identical. Yeah. And style has gone out of it. You can't judge style, but you would in your own mind, you'd always think, oh, that guy's got the best style or that girl or whatever. But the girls are really stylistic with their surfing. And I just love watching women surfing. I really do. Yeah,
just talking about the judging there. You would have had some dodgy calls over the years?
Yeah.
Or seen some?
Yeah, I've seen some and I've been involved with some and I've had to announce some where everybody's hanging on that last score, and it's like not what they thought it would be and people are blowing up and stuff. And I'm like, don't shoot the messenger. These guys told me what to say.
But it's a good thing about surfing too. It is subjective in regards to judging.
Yeah, and they're generally pretty good at getting it right. These guys, the head judges, that I worked with, like Renato and Perry Hatchett and Patamo Arant and all these guys that are legendary head judges. They know how to keep a panel in check. They're almost like they're a shepherd with a sheepdog, a bunch of sheepdogs, and they just they can corral the scores so that they get the correct result. I used to say we should just sack the panel and just get like the head judge to but it looks democratically better if you have a panel of judges. But the reality is that, sometimes they do make the call. Yeah.
Yeah. It's funny too. Josh Callanan, he used to, he changed his surfing a fair bit because, as you know, he was a big wave surfer for a while there, and he was going in competitions, but he was almost like every wave he wanted to.
Ryan Callanan.
Sorry.
Yeah.
I was going to say Josh Callanan.
Yeah.
the journalist.
Yeah.
But he always used to try to ride the hell out of every wave, and he had to sort of reel it in a little bit to say, you know, we're doing a heat. It's just get enough points and get through instead. And sometimes you just stuff it by wanting to do that big.
Yeah, well,
radical
he
moves.
was at the forefront with, he was the Billabong kid who came through doing all the radical big airs and stuff and grab rail aerial reverses, backhand, forehand, you name it. So he was a trickster. And then he had to conform to the criteria because the criteria at the time didn't really lend itself to that kind of surfing. It was more rail power-based surfing, and so then eventually the guys that did that radical like air surfing broke away with Quicksilver, and they started their own tour called the Quicksilver Air Show. And those contests, because I worked at a few of those as a competition, as a commentator. And they were just awesome, Michael, because it was a punk surf show, right? So DJs there and thrash bands playing. There was no rules, just do the wildest thing you can. People drinking beer before they went out and stuff. It was like, and it really appealed to a lot more people than just that squeaky clean stuff. And then, of course, the ASP at the time, they went, oh, we better change the criteria to allow for that kind of surfing to be judged properly in our competitions on the World Tour. And then, you know, that quickly dried up and went away.
What can get a really good surfer to get to that upper echelon? Is it a fine line? I mean, I think of people like, we used to do so many stories on guys like Jake Sylvester.
Yeah.
And it was almost like, oh, this guy's going to, you know, and he just couldn't get there.
It's phenomenal. I mean, at the moment, I believe that there's around about 40 or 45 million surfers on planet Earth.
Yeah.
That's a rough estimate. But so when you say that there's 40 people on the world tour, every one of those people is the best in 1 million.
Yeah.
So that's the statistic, you know. And I used to do a lot of elite surf coaching, and you know, I knew these stats, but you probably wouldn't say it to the mums and dads because you don't want to break anyone's heart. And you know, strange things can happen. I remember Jackson Baker. Jacko's been knocking on the door for so long. I was so stoked when he qualified because I remember Jackson when he was a little tiny kid.
Did I. Yeah.
And same with Ryan because I was good friends with his dad, Gary, you know.
Yeah.
And I've seen all these kids grow up and come through the system and have great careers, but it does take a certain thing for them to be able to make it. And the other thing is that they also need money. They need financial backing, and quite a lot of the time I've seen like really good surfers who just have the arse out of their pants and they can't afford to do the world tour. And you think, wow, if that guy's on the world tour, he would kill it. So that's always been the way. I remember when Sean Thompson won the title in 78, I think it was, his dad was rich and he paid for him to go everywhere. And so everyone was like, oh, he only won it because his dad sponsored him. And, you know, but it's still a bit like that, to tell you the truth. It's a bit of a trust fund kids kind of gig, you know.
I mean, sponsorship's everything these days, isn't it?
Well, sponsorship has unfortunately dried up because, you know, Billabong, Quicksilver, Rip Curl, all these companies have been sold to Anaconda and, you know, Tommy Hilfiger and that owns like Billabong and Billabong and Quicksilver, you know, like so are owned by the same company now. But back in the day when it was Rabbit Bartholomew running the ASP, and they went to the surf labels and said, look, if you support us, we'll grow surfing. And then when surfing grows, your piece of the pie will grow. And it was a wonderful kind of a model to grow together. Unfortunately, what happened was all those surf moguls like Greenie from Quicksilver and you know, and the guys that own Billabong and all that, they just got to an age when they were like in their 70s and went, we're just going to cash in.
Yeah.
And so all those companies just kind of died. And then you've got Temu and Sheen who just came in on the scene. And, you know, people go to a surf shop now and they look at a T-shirt for $45 or $50 or whatever. And they think, oh, you know, I could get like a full outfit for that kind of money online.
Yeah.
So it's really tough. It's a different time as well. Back in the day, you know, I was sponsored by Quicksilver and Rip Curl at the same time, you know, when Rip Curl just made wetsuits and Quickie just made board shorts. But people would have that logo because they felt like they wanted to be part of a tribe. And so you'd see someone with a Quicksilver shirt and you go, oh, yeah, that guy surfs. And you had surfers and bikers and, different type groups of people. So times have changed now. Everyone wants to be really individual. So people are now looking for like stuff that nobody else has got and that's going to, make them different to the next guy. So it hasn't got that sort of pack mentality anymore. So that worked against the big labels as well.
This isn't just a gym, it's where limits get broken. A place where community comes together, sweat turns into strength, and every drop is progress. No excuses, no egos, just results. Join Fitstop Newcastle today, a start to a better you.
Sticking, you mentioned bikers. There's a biker's story. You had a trip to South Australia. Would that have been around the time you made the Team Australia? Or
it was 1980. It was that year.
Yeah. So now this story, you pitched this story to Hamish and Andy's show, True Story, but it was deemed too much. Must have been one hell of a story. And you recount this as sort of like a turf war between surfers and bikers. So this is like pre-bra boy stuff.
Yeah, it was. It really was. And I went down. Do you want me to tell the story briefly?
No, you don't. You don't have to tell it briefly.
Okay.
We've got plenty of time.
Okay,
I want you to.
Yeah. Hang on to your seats, kiddies. This is the wild 80s for you.
Tez McKenna has the floor.
Yeah. Well, okay. So I guess it was May 1980, and we went to a place called Victor Harbour in South Australia, which at the time was a little sleepy holiday hamlet. And we got there a couple of days before. In those days, the competition went for 2 weeks. They had all of the divisions from the grommets to grandpas, so it's like a massive amount of people in the contest. They'd have 3 separate competitions, and after the 3 contests, they'd tally everything up and they'd get the top 6 and you'd surf into a final. So we got there a couple of days beforehand. And we were loving it. We drove down with some Ruber guys with Brad Stubbs, who's the coach whisperer, he's the, so Stubbs has always been a mad as a cut snake. And then you've got, but very smart. And then Mark Scott, who was the world amateur champion, and Dave Anelzak. So these guys were like real bra boy guys. And I was the kid like on the trip. So I had to do whatever they said sort of thing, So it was funny. But we got down there and the night before we went to the local pub and you didn't have to show ID in those days. If you had a little milky moustache, like you get in sort of thing. So anyway, we were in there and we're cutting it up and the live band's going nuts and as everyone's got their shirts off and the local chicks are loving it and the boys are like, having the time of their lives. And I thought it was about 10:30 at night. I went outside to get a bit of fresh air and I looked in the gutter and there was a kneeboard guy from Phillip Island that I sort of half knew and I said to him, what's going on? And he looked up and he had blood all over him, massive big cut on his head. And I'm like, what's going on? And he mustered up just enough strength to point into the park and say, point over there. And I looked over into the park and there was like 50 bikers with baseball bats. And I went, wow, okay. So I went inside and I told the boys what's happened and the whole pub just came out, like 200 of them. And these are big boys, Terry Richardson and Mike Newling and some big guys back in the day. And when you rack up for a game of pool and you make a triangle, well, I was that ball at the front. I don't know how I ended up there, right? But at the time I was doing Taekwondo. I was a skinny 17-year-old.
It was the Trojan horse and you were the head.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, what am I doing here? Anyway, it was like this classic Mexican standoff and we came to this big guy and he looked like kind of Lurch out of the Addams Family and he had a leather jacket on and this dirty, greasy hair. And I remember he was about like 3 foot taller than me. And I looked up at him. And no one said anything, right? And my brother always said to me, my brother was the fighter, Dallas, and he always used to say, make sure you get the first punch in, mate. At least you'll get a punch in. Sort of write me off. And so I just looked up and I saw his arm go to move and I thought, well, now's my time. And I had to punch up like at 45 degrees and I got him a cracker of a punch, right? The best I've ever hit anyone in my life. Not that I'm hitting people, but it was like in slow motion. It looked kind of like the JFK assassination. Just picture that, like the his head rifled back and it was all in
It's a
slow.
fucking magic bullet that did it.
Anyway, then he just kind of shook his head like that, and he had bloody teeth. And I remembered he said, "You're gonna have to do better than that, buddy." And he had it like a hand, like a house brick. And I remember when he hit me in the face, it was the first time that I'd been properly punched, and I was shocked at the amount of pain that like one punch could and then the greatest all-in brawl in South Australian history started. So then it was a pile on, it was a punch on, it was just going on for, I don't know, 4 or 5 minutes. And next minute somebody grabs me around the ankles and pulls me out, and it was the local coppers, and they said, and I just went, "Oh, well, he hit me." And then they said, "Well, good, we're going to get you to press charges." And I said, "No, I'm not going to press charges." And I said, "You're pressing charges because these guys have been running the town for like ever, and there's only 2 coppers down here, and we need these guys to be like put away." And I'm like, okay. So I went and wrote a statement and thought that's the end of it, right? No. So we went to Coles a couple of nights later after we'd had a couple of rounds of competition, and saw some of the girls that we were dancing with, and they started crying, and they said, these guys are gonna take you out, like, watch out, and they're looking for you, the guy with the gap in his teeth. And I'm like, what, why me? And they said, "Oh, apparently you started it." And so we swapped our fluoro 80 stuff for like black sloppy joes and black tracky pants and a black beanie and stuff, so we'd be less, we wouldn't stick out as much in the town. A couple of days later, we're out the front of a sports store. I remember they pulled up and the guy put a gun out the window and he pointed it at Stubbsy and he said, "Mate, it's this season." He pulled the trigger and we could hear the trigger go, but he didn't have a bullet in there. And he said, "Get out of town and don't come back." And I said, "This is like the best idea I've ever heard." And Stubbsy, being a madman, looked down and there was like, it was a sports store was out the front. It had like a rack of spear guns. So he got the spear gun and loaded it and chased after him down the road. And I thought, well, this is bad. This is not going to end up good. So fast forward another couple of days and we'd been like locked in a caravan and we didn't want to do anything, and because we didn't want to go out. And we said to the local guy who was at the caravan park, we said, "Mate, we got to get out of here. We're going stir crazy." He said, "Mate, go up 10 miles out of town. There's a little pub on the side of a hill. It's on a lean. Looks like the Edamanga Hotel." He said, you won't miss it. Car park, boom. Go and have yourself a game of pool in the cold beer. And we went, oh. So we powered out to this pub. We found it. And I remember the boys were still in the car and I went in first, and I'm just dying. This like thirsty little 17-year-old, and had those saloon doors, like in a Western. And I pushed the doors open, and the first person that I saw when I looked at was this guy, Michael Novikov, who's got a big nose because he's a Russian guy. But it looked like somebody had just like belted him, and his nose was like boom, boom, like that. And he had tears in his eyes, and his gaze just went like that across into the room where the pool table was, and lo and behold, it's the clubhouse of the guys from the bikers. Yeah. So,
I might set you up.
well, he didn't realise. He's just like an 80-year-old guy running a caravan park. We didn't tell him the whole story. And so I've just kind of summed everything up, and it was like that road runner, like beep, beep, and I've just taken off in a puff of smoke. And as the boys came through the saloon doors, I literally hit the door so hard and fast that I saw their feet in the air. So I bowled them completely over, and I'm just running like Michael Johnson style to the car in the car park. And I looked over to the Edamanga Hotel, and there's bikies coming out of everywhere. It was like someone stood on something and all the cockroaches or ants are coming out.
Nest.
Yeah, and I'm just, oh my God. And they're just zipping their duds out, jumping out of the top floor and stuff. And I'm like, we're dead. We're going to die right now. And the boys come and run after me saying, what's happening? What's happening? I'm like, get the car. Anyway, we just got in the car. And as we got in the car and locked the door, boom, they're under the car, belting the car up, ripping the windscreen wipers, kicking the doors, trying to break the windows. We did a couple of like spins in the car park to get rid of them off the car. And then they got on their bikes and they chased us like Mad Max style for like probably, I don't know, it seemed like 40 minutes. And then they finally gave up. And back then there was no, Google Maps. So we got the Gregory's out and had a look and went, shit, like, there's only one road into town. So we don't want to go past this clubhouse again. So we went all the way back in Adelaide and back around and like took a 2 and so we got home at midnight, thirsty and pissed off. So that was that. Anyway, during our time there, we did see where they had their clubhouse, and we thought, okay, so we're not at the pub, but like what back in the days when they could have a clubhouse for the bikers. So we went, right, that's where the clubhouse is. Avoid that at all costs. Anyway, competition comes to an end. It's the last night of the titles and the presentation, and Goober got first. So he went to represent Australia at the World Games, Mark Scott. So he was a great surfer. And then Stubbsy, who was in the juniors, you had to be 18 and under. He was 21, but because he had a baby face, he entered illegally into that division. And I knew that he was too old for the division, but he surfed through and got 6th, and I got 7th. And the top 6 go to the finals. And I knew that if I dobbed him into the officials, I'd get his spot.
Yeah.
And I could potentially win an Australian title, and so I had to keep my mouth shut because it's Maroubra. Anyway, so the whole night comes to an end. We go back to all the buses, load up with all the teams. And we're like, see you guys, yeah, what a week it's been. And we went back to our little caravan and we were going to leave the next morning. And the boys went, it's at 1:30 in the morning. They said, let's just hit the road. Let's go now. I went, righto. And so we packed up and got everything. And I remember Stubbsy walking out with a big shopping bag full of because we always had eggs because eggs we didn't eat them, we just threw them because it was fun in a shell, so we always bought a couple of dozen eggs wherever we went. It was harmless, but it was funny, so we'd always have egg fights everywhere and that and write people off with eggs. Anyway, so Stubbsy came out with all these eggs in and sugar and honey and the stuff that we were leaving in and I said, what are you doing with that? And then he looked at Goober and Goober looked at Anil and they just kind of gave me a wink and I went, oh, something bad's going to happen here. So they made us go to the clubhouse and we parked down the street and we went to so my job was to take the honey, the little honey, Capilino honey, and take the spark plugs off and fill them up with honey and then put the caps back on. And then and then they did other things that I'm probably not really proud to say what they did to the bikes and that. But you can imagine, right? Use your imagination. And then we went back to the car and we got the car and we went out the front of the clubhouse. It was probably 2:30 in the morning by then. We bipped the horn and everything. And the first guy comes out is the guy from the first night, the lurch guy that I punched. And he's like the king of the gang kind of thing. And he said, what the fuck's going on sort of thing. And we just let fly with these eggs. And it was like something out of a medieval kind of movie, where those fireballs go through the air. And every single egg hit every single person, between the eyes. The accuracy was sublime. And it was the funniest thing I'd ever seen, the funniest and the scariest moment of my life. And we drove off into the distance just laughing our heads off and that was it, yeah. That was classic. It was the classic Surfers v. the Bikies. Well, I went back there in 2015. I'm walking around the town saying to the boys, yeah, this is where it happened. And it was like this and I was there and, all that sort of stuff. And we went around, let's get some lunch. And we went to get some lunch and we walked past a tattoo parlor. And I looked in and then I just stopped and went, and they said, what? And I went, I took a couple of steps back and the guy looked at me and I swear to God, it was the guy from that night, all old and grey with a bit of a baldy head and a ponytail doing a tattoo. And he goes, what are you fucking looking at? And I thought to myself, if only you knew. Yeah, that was the end of it.
How good is that? How good is that?
Yeah.
Well, that's pre-Bra Boys, but
yeah.
In regards to the actual Bra Boys club itself, I mean, you were an original Maroubra boy. Yeah. Before it morphed into I suppose the gang.
Yeah.
But you did hang around a lot of those guys.
That's right, yeah.
And someone like Marty Lee?
Yeah, Marty was one of the most feared guys on the beach. There's Marty with his baseball bat.
I thought he was just trolling out for the softball team at Maroubra.
Yeah. Marty used to take out, he was the guy, the enforcer, so people that came to surf the beach, he would, get his bat out. Or he wouldn't get his bat out. Occasionally he would, but there he is there. That's him a bit later on in life. But
he's only a little bloke.
He's a little guy, but oh my God, he was like a bulldog.
Yeah.
No, he used to take down the biggest guys, Brazilian jiu-jitsu guys that come to the beach and say, mate, you don't want to mess with me. And Marty would beat the shit out of him in front of everyone. So Marty was, I remember the year that I won the state title, Marty come and said to me, I was with Fat Cat and all my mates, and he said, did you win the state title yesterday? And I said, yeah. He goes, you're hanging with me and my gang now. And I went, oh, no, I'm with Fat Cat. And he goes, Fat Cat, fuck off. And no, you're never going to argue, mate. So I'm reluctantly, he became my mentor and pushed me a lot.
And he was a fearless surfer as well, wasn't he?
Unbelievable. And he used to make me go out North End when it was 10 foot and stuff. And I'd be absolutely shitting myself and thinking, I'm going to die. But the alternative to deal with him probably would have been worse, to tell you the truth. So he pushed me to whole new levels. And like physically, mentally, on lots of different things. We'd be in his caravan listening to the JoJo Zepp and the Falcons or something on a record, and you know, someone would come and knock on his thing, and he'd go, "Come with me, mate." He said, "Grab a bat." I said, "Where are we going?" He goes, Up Pooh Hill, where got some guys to sort out." And I'm like, "Oh no!" And I was involved with a lot of big gang fights where there was him and, you know, 5 or 6 of us, and then 20 of them, you know. And it would be the guys from out west, or it'd be the Greek guys, or it'd be just different groups of people. You know, it was like that back then.
Jesus.
It was like gang war, you know.
Well, I'm just regarding that, the Bra Boys, how it all started. It was really more about keeping the place safe, wasn't it, at first?
Yeah.
You know, because it was a bit of a rough area. There was a lot of crime and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
And that's what it sort of started as to, you know, don't mess, you know, like a vigilante sort of thing.
It was. I mean, Maroubra was, you know, Lexington, which was the suburb behind the beach, was the biggest housing commission.
Lexington Place?
Yeah. Lexington was one of the biggest housing commissions in the world that had ever been attempted. It was a suburb for housing commission.
Yeah.
So everyone who surfed the beach came from there, and they had like single parents and low income. So it was just always going to set itself up like that. But when we had blow-ins coming from out west, or kooks, you know, from another beach coming, it got to the point where, you know, the boys started to enforce localism, and it was highly respected, that whole Bra Boy movement, like worldwide. The Brazilians loved it. They thought it was a fantastic idea. Canary Islands, like all these places around the world where people, you know, that I've traveled to, and they knew that I was from Maroubra, like just wanted to come and meet me and talk about all that, because it was such an iconic moment in the history of surfing, you know. So
If you hadn't have come up to Fingal, did you just miss that?
I did just miss it, yeah.
And if you would have been down there, you would have been part of that.
Well, I would have reluctantly been a part of it, probably, because if you're there, you're just a part of it regardless, because you're one of the boys. So when I went away, it was a bit of a blessing in disguise, to tell you the truth, because that like freed me up to surf really good waves without any pressure, that kind of peer pressure. There was a lot of drugs and alcohol during that time too. So the boys went hard. They lived hard. They surfed big waves. They surfed radical waves that you just like no one else would ever surf, like with, you know, 1 inch of water, you know, like ours, and all these different breaks. And, you know, and so they pushed. We had Lurline Bay around the corner from us, where it was like we'd learn to surf big waves and stuff. So, and if you didn't go out, you know, they call you a pea-heart, which was like the worst thing that you could have been called, like a gutless wonder, basically. And so, you know, everybody had to step up or step out. Don't come and hang with us if you're not going to cut it, you know.
And it was very territorial, wasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, my parents owned a restaurant right at the roundabout at North End, so I was right amongst it, luckily, and grew up in the corner there surfing the coolites. You know, I think the first board I ever got was a free board with a bucket of chicken from KFC. I was like a cork one, you know, cool. And then we grew up on the coolites, and now I've still got the nipples to prove it. These things used to just tear the crap out of you. So, yeah, but, and then, you know, where we went onto the surfer planes and eventually onto the surfboards and stuff. At that point, then I had to go back to Malabar, which was a kind of like a learn to surf place, and then make a graduation process to South Maroubra, to the middle of Maroubra, which is where MBA was, Maroubra Board Riders, and then eventually onto the North Maroubra Surf Riders Club, which I helped to found back in the day. And that was all the loosest guys on the beach were the best surfers. And it was a real like hodgepodge of characters, you know, and it was a wild crew. And so the MBA, Maroubra Board Riders Association, they got clean cut guys from Mascot running their club. So they said, you guys can't represent the club at the team level. And so we said, well, they're all the best surfers. And so we started our own club, and I helped them to do that. And so because of that, that ended up morphing into not the Bra Boys, but, you know, some of the Bra Boys joined that club. And I go back for Old Boys Day occasionally, and it's unreal. And they roll out the red carpet. And I took the band down there a couple of years ago, and we had a big night with everyone, and nothing's changed down there.
There was the Bra Boys. They had was it a Christmas party at a club on the same night the police had their Christmas
Yeah.
party on the next level.
Yeah.
It was always going to
That
end badly,
was
wasn't
at Coogee at the Union Club.
Yeah.
And so, and they ran into each other in the elevator, and it was all systems go, and then big punch on, and that really got the police, against the Bra Boys, and they created a lot of negative media around that as well. And then not long after that, of course, you had the Abberton boys, Sonny was the oldest, and then you had Jai in the middle, and Kobe Abberton, of course, the big wave surf, was just a kid when I was down there. He's riding around on a skateboard, and they come from a pretty loose family. So I used to pick up Sonny and Jai and take them down camping at Era down in the national park south of Sydney, and we'd put a tent up and go surf for a couple of days. And I was a bit of a mentor for those guys. And that was, really sad when Jai had an altercation with Heinzie, and a gun came into it, and Heinzie got killed, and Jai panicked and threw the body off the cliffs at Lurline, and Kobe kind of covered for him a bit, and I don't know what the actual details were, but it was a pretty sad moment for Maruba, because I love those guys, and they were like
it sort of unravelled it all, didn't it? Really, that was the point where So, I guess there's still people. I mean, the basic movement for the Bra Boys was to, like you said, it was a territorial group of guys that were just wanted to enforce the fact that, like, hey, this is our beach. If you come and surf here, you take your spot in the lineup, and you're going to have to respect the locals. And that's what it was all about. That territorial thing, was that happening at Dudley for a while?
I mean, it's happened everywhere. I mean, it's still, Leggy Point's pretty territorial these days. I don't mention on the surf report. There's certain places that I don't mention. Leggy's one of them. I remember once I did, and I got the old, fuck off on the wax job on the windscreen on my car. And I'm like, okay, I won't do that again, boys. Sorry about that. It was a slip of the tongue. And you've got other breaks up at Port Stephens, like Windy Whopper and that. There's just certain places that Ghosties used to be like that until they went and, Frank Sartor went and sold all that land. And then now there's like 10,000 people living there. It's no longer a secret anymore. But, places like that were sacred. Yeah.
You talk about, starting on a cork board. But, what I used to, remember those round discs? Used to throw out and jump on. What was that?
Oh, like a skimboard. Yeah.
That's my closest thing I got to surfing.
Yeah, okay.
And cut that. Please cut that out, David.
Tired of missing out on the best properties? Stop searching, start winning. At Optimum Buyers Agency, we work for you, not the seller. We negotiate harder, we move faster, we find the homes others don't. Off-market deals, smart strategy, real results. Whether it's your first home or your forever home, we make it happen. Optimum Buyers Agency, your edge in a competitive market.
Surfboards have really changed over the years, haven't they, in regards to the way the styles have been made. There's a fellow by the name of Dennis Anderson, who sadly also passed away.
Yeah.
He was... I saw there he is there. I saw an interview with him, and he said he's never made the same board twice. I find that extraordinary.
Yeah, because now, of course... back in DA's day, they were all hand-shaped. So, you'd be lucky to get one side of the board to be the same as the other side, because they'd be right-handed, right? And they would be like a bit weird, but they'd work. But these days, the boards get cut on a computer, so they're perfect down to 100th of a millimetre.
How many boards would he have?
Oh, God. Thousands and thousands of boards. DA was the guy behind the brand Jet surfboards.
Yeah.
And Jet was the first big, multi-manufacturer. So they used to make 50 or 100 boards at once. And he came through with a lot of incredible materials. Actually, one little story. He made me a board when I went to America in 1984. And I knew that the waves were weak over there. So I wanted a board that was light and would perform against the Americans. And when I got there, there was a brand called Canyon that Occy was riding, and Occy went to the next level on these boards. So we went to the Canyon factory with the guys I was with, and they said, I said, I'd like to get a Canyon. And Rusty Priesendorfer was the guy from Rusty, right? And said, he was the shaper. He said, he just laughed and went, mate, there's like 6 months of orders on the board there. Have a look at it. And I said, oh, that's a shame, because I've got a board I was going to try and swap you that's got like ping pong balls in it. And he went, what? And so Dennis made me this board that's the board. And you can see it's got jet there written in the ping pong ball shape on the nose of the board. And that's why that's why they use that shape, because that's kind of roughly the size of the holes that he routed out.
Yeah.
And then so he routed the holes out of the blank, and then he put ping pong balls in there, right? And so that was lighter. The ping pong balls were lighter and more buoyant than the surfboard foam. So it was a really innovative move. And so when I told Rusty that I had a board with ping pong balls in, he said, bullshit. I said, yeah, I got it. And of course, I've been riding it for a while. What happened was some of the balls got loose in it. Sounded like a lotto machine. So anyway, I ended up, he said,
the supplementary is.
Exactly. He said, go get the board. So I went and got the board, and I just gave it a shake in front of him, and to prove, and he went, holy shit. He goes, listen, take pick from any board over there. He said, I'm going to swap you for that one. And I said, okay. And I remember the boss of the factory was like, Rusty, you can't do that. He said, shut up. And anyway, I picked the board and I kept it for like 20 years. It was the best board I ever had. And he said, okay, you happy with the board? And I said, yeah. And he said, so that's yours now? I said, yep. And he put it on a steel, and he just cut the thing straight in half, just pulled the fiberglass off so he could see the technology. Yeah. And that's all he wanted the board for, So, it was a class.
How come it didn't take off?
I think that they just ended up making like epoxy resin and lighter foam to begin with. But yeah, it was a really valiant attempt from DA Dennis Anderson to try something revolutionary, and that was the kind of guy that he was. Yeah. It was really sad when he passed away, because he was a big sponsor of mine back in the day. When I went to the Bay, everyone had a jet surfboard, and I was like, he would come down and with like 100 custom orders for Christmas, and he was just like, man, you're like the best guy ever. And he was paying me and sending me around the world and stuff. So it was a great relationship.
Real innovator there, wasn't he? I mean, you look at something like that. It's like, it reminded me of, Dennis Lilly getting handed an aluminium bat, go out and play, and it was almost like, what?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it was a classic moment. I mean, other people have had, innovative chances to try and change surfing, but I think that was
well, I mean, even the twin fins changed a lot of things.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, and quad fins and, all that stuff. So it's been good.
You were a fair surfer, weren't you, in the early days? I think we got a few pictures of you there. But what stopped you from going to that next level?
Yeah, I guess I did. I remember when I went to Bells Beach for the Easter Classic a couple of times, but I was down there one time when Deakin University had an interpersonal quiz that they wanted to do with some of the athletes, and they said, "Hey, Teza, you want to be involved with it?" And I said, "Yeah." So I did a 100-page questionnaire, and they put it all into some old-fashioned computer, and they came out with a score of like how competitive you were. And what it was that my score alluded to the fact that I wasn't there to win the contest. I was there because I love to be a part of something, and that like I was doing it for the wrong reasons. If I wanted to win the contest, it was more of a social thing for me. And I guess that kind of was, I thought I was pretty competitive. But when I read back through the results of the test, I realised that, maybe I just I love the lifestyle, and that's a pretty much reflection of who I am and what I do now, and that like everything I do is involved with things that I love, and I've been self-employed since 1989, and I really I sometimes say to people I don't have a real job, but I have multiple jobs, and I'm a busy guy, and.
Well, so we're going to get into that, but just staying on the just going to that next level. When you're in a heat with a really good surfer that's probably better than you, does someone that you're surfing that you know's better bring the best out in you?
Yeah, it does.
In that heat, it does.
Yeah, and with surfing back then, before they had the priority system, now they have a priority system. So you got 4 guys in the heat, red, white, yellow, blue. Yeah. So they put a card in order of like whose wave it is next. But back then, it wasn't like that. It was a dog-eat-dog sort of thing. So because I came from Maroubra, I was always really good at hassling people, like paddling around the inside, putting pressure on them, sitting close to them, bit of a mind game guy. So I really liked the mind games of surfing. Dad gave me these psycho-cybernetic books from a guy called Maxwell Maltz way back in the 80s, and I read a lot of that stuff, and I was always like trying to wig people out with mental stuff more so than my surfing, or sit right next to them and make them super uncomfortable, or just, pulling leg ropes and paddling around them and, all that kind of stuff. So it was a lot of shenanigans going on.
I bet you did have some success. You won the Capricorn 2000. That was in 1984.
Yeah, that was really cool. It was that year. It was the biggest contest in Australia. It had 360 people. I think there it is. There's little Teza doing his cutback.
Mate, look at you. You're a specimen.
Oh my God, I was size 28 waist, and I had pretty broad shoulders and that. It was a good time at New Wave Wetsuits. That was Fred Williams down here in Gateshead, and they sponsored me, and they made a surfing wetsuit called New Wave. But they were awesome. But that was me free surfing at the Capricorn. It was a wonderful moment. My dad came. My dad had me when he was in his mid 40s, so he never came. He was kind of dad that would go to the sporting events, and he'd read the Sydney Morning Herald in the car and not sort of get involved too much.
Well, being a bookmaker, he would have been at Randwick most Saturdays, wouldn't he?
Exactly. So, but later on in life, when I started having a surfing career, I remember he came to the Capricorn and we went away together, and he said, "I'll come up there with you." And so it was the first contest that he ever came to with me, and I just happened to win it. When I came in from the final, I was so elated that I'd won it, and I ran up to where my dad was, and everyone went, "Oh, the ambulance had to come. Your dad had a turn during the final." He got so excited. So he had a little kind of a heart attack kind of thing. So I remember I got in the car and went over to the Taree Hospital, and we picked him up, and then I brought him to the Prezzo and that, and he was fine from there. But he couldn't handle it, But I was glad that he got to see me in that moment, which was for sure one of the greatest moments. Taree Board Riders celebrated their 60th anniversary the other week, and I did they wanted me to come up and talk about the Capricorn because they used to run the contest. Up at Taree. So but it was great memories of those times. It was the Australia Day long weekend, and it was just the best weekend away. It was went for 5 days. So it was 5 days of mayhem and surfing.
You would have been pretty easy to notice out the surf with the snowy blonde hair. I think but as someone that reminds me of you at that age.
Right.
I think we might have it somewhere here. So we got you first. Here we go. There you go. Look at you.
Yeah.
Right.
Look at that guy.
And we'll do a quick switch here.
So, is that Ivan Drago? Yeah, that's more like Billy Arnold hair. That stuff.
Well, you've morphed into Billy and Drago.
Yeah, that's funny. Yeah, what a classic. No, I always thought Ivan Drago was awesome. Yeah, that was such a good.
I think he was a bouncer in King's Cross for a while too.
Yeah. I heard something like that. Yeah, what a classic, eh? But,
Pacific Dreams. You get a job in the surf store there, but you didn't last there long before you got the job at New FM. It was, how did that come about?
Yeah, I got poached from Pacific Dreams. Worked there for about 5 years actually. So I was there during a big time of growth for them. I went to when they had one store in Hunter Street, and then when I left, they had 6 stores in the centre courts of all the big shopping centres around. So I was there for a big growth period. But during that time in 1989, Mike Webb bought up a New FM radio station from Sydney. He previously started Triple M. And he said, well, this will be the Triple M of Newcastle. And when you're kicking off a brand new radio station, you don't have clients. So they went around town giving everyone free advertising. And they came in and said, get some specs on the ad. And when it was the ad, it was like Pacific Dreams. And it was really corny and horrible. So when they came back, Bert, the sales guy, he said to me, come and said, well, what did you think? And we went, no, it was a shitty ad. And he goes, all right, well, what about we do another one for you? And maybe you could read it. And he said, and I said, who? And Roy was there, and he goes, the guy who he said at that time, you sound like you've got a nose full of salt water. That's exactly what he said to me, right? That's where I got that quote from. So then Roy said, get up there and read the ad with Bert. Bert will drive me up to the radio station to do it. And I went, I'm not going up. And Roy said, get up there and friggin' read the ad. And so I went, oh. And I was always a bit of a storyteller. So I went up there and Sean was in the sound booth and I sort of did it in one go. And he's like, wow, you're a bit of a natural at this stuff, dude. And Mike Webb was outside the sound booth with his arms folded like this, just looking through the glass at me. And I remember thinking like, who's that guy? You know, sussing me out. And I said to Sean, who's that? And he said, that's Mike, the general manager. He's the owner of the whole thing. And when I came out, Mike was there and he said, hey, before you leave, come down and see me in my office. And went down in the office and he said, take a seat. And he goes, tell me about you. What's your story in that? And he said, mate, you've got a very unique voice, you know. And he said, and that's what we're looking for in radio. We're looking for a lifestyle reporter. How much are they paying you down there? And I thought it was like $500 a week I think I was on, which was good money back then. And he said, I'll give you double that and a car and a petrol card. So I'll give you $1,000 a week. I went, that's like $2,500 a week now kind of thing, right? So I'm like, wow. Yeah. Okay, I'll say, he said, you want to say yes now? I said, yep. And I said, I'm going to go down and tell Roy. So I walked back to the surf shop. Roy's like, I said, how'd the ads going? Pretty good, but you'd never guess what happened. And
I'm leaving.
He didn't take it too well. He said to Janet, his lovely wife, and they're beautiful people, and they treated me really with great respect in the time that I was with them, said, make up Teza's 3 weeks and let him go. And then I walked back up with a handful of money to Mike and said, I got the SAG. And he goes, good, start tomorrow. And the rest is history.
So you're the guy driving around handing out icy cold Coca-Cola?
Yeah, that was it with, the oat milks and, some bag of fruit and some
Remember
cakes.
back in the day, people were like crashing into people just to...
Oh, my goodness, yeah, it was out of control. And, when New FM launched, we were, I lived with Gavin Morris across the road from the cop shop on that big unit there. We had the penthouse up the top, right? And it was wild years back then, and I remember New FM came and put a personal line into the house for me with a glass studio in our house, just so I could do the surf reports live as though it would seem like I was in the studio with the breakfast crew. So I would just stay in the house and have a coffee and pull the door shut, and it'd be this glass booth with
It's the greatest gig on earth.
Oh my God, yeah, it was incredible. And so Gav and I lived together, and it was early days for Gavin, in radio as well. He was starting to kick along, and a couple of years later, Steve Graham turned up as a young kid from Queensland. And it was all the original crew. Kimmy Player was doing the promotions, and I think it might have been Nat Jeffrey and Tim were the original breakfast crew back in the day, and then it was Garth and Steve and Garth and JPY, and the history just goes on. I lasted, out of all those original people, I was the last guy to get let go from New FM after 22 years I did with them. So 22 years there, and I think 12 years now, or maybe 11 years with Triple M, so I'm coming up a couple of years' time. It'll be the 40th.
But you would have seen radio's changed. I mean, just what you're talking about, and the same with television as well. There was a lot of money back then. It was almost like whatever works, we do. You know, there was no questions asked. Now you'd have to, you'd ask, but you just probably wouldn't get it.
A lot of that stuff's been cut out because they just realised that you can get away without it. We used to do the movie premieres. One of my jobs was the MC of the movie premieres. I used to love it. We dress up as Ghostbusters and Nuns on the Run and Honey, I Blew Up the Kids and all these different premieres that we used to do. And me and John Carroll and some of the other characters, Durry Rogers and all these old guys, we used to dress up as the characters from the movie, and we'd go out the front, we'd say, look under your seat, and we'd give away free stuff, and, we'd crack jokes, and they were fantastic times, mainly at the Towers and the Hoyt Cinemas, at Charlestown. And so when they reopened the Towers Cinema, because I did the Dick Tracy, was the last premiere that I did there, dressed as Dick Tracy. They drove me in an old car with a special watch and all that, and I was dressed like Dick Tracy, and it was really cool.
You love your dress-ups, don't you?
I do like to dress up. I hate being me. No, because, I don't know what it is. It's you have more fun when you're someone else.
Are we sure we're seeing Terry here today?
This is the real deal. Yeah, this is me. But, I do like to have alter egos. Yeah, I guess. I don't know why. I'm comfortable with who I am, but I also love to, I love that to act out. Yeah, that kind of stuff.
You just reminded me. There's a guy I know called Steve Hart, and not many people know. In Sydney, they do. He's been a sports reporter. He used to work on Sports Tonight, all that sort of stuff, and He's got a band in Sydney, and they play down the Shire, down Cronulla Way. It's called Steve Hart and the All Stars.
Right.
And someone said, "Oh yeah, Steve's got a band. You should get on YouTube and have a look." I went, "Oh yeah, He's called the band his own band. It's a Steve Hart. How good's this going to be?" But this All Star lineup, it'd be, the drummer from the Hoodoo Gurus, an ex guitarist from Noise Works, like Ganga Jang,
Sure.
it all come together for these gigs probably once a month. But the thing is, Steve, who's this mild-mannered reporter through the Monday to Friday, just turned into this rock god.
Yeah.
Playing covers, Chisel and all that sort of stuff. The place is packed, but he's just almost like an alter ego. And he goes, I feel like I'm an actor.
Yeah.
I'm just playing a part.
Yeah, exactly.
I feel like that's exactly what you have to do.
And when I get dressed up to do the Billy Idol, I couldn't do it if I was just doing it as Teza McKenna, the surf guy. I have to become Billy Idol to do that show. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then it's easy for me to be in
Was that a bit
character.
funny or hard when you get called up at a pub and you're not in your garb and you're doing a Billy Idol
It does
song?
feel a bit like that. It feels like, they've called Superman up and he hasn't got his undies on the outside.
Clarke gets up at the Prince.
Yeah, that's right. Exactly. He's got his glasses on. He's just mild-mannered sort of a guy trying to like bang it out. But no, it's good fun. So I really enjoy that. And with my girlfriend Sharon, she's gorgeous and she loves dressing up. And I noticed that Craig McLaughlin and Vanessa, his partner, does that as well. They like to dress up and muck around. It's good fun. You only live once, so let your hair down and enjoy yourself.
I mean, what do you love about Newcastle the most?
I love apart from the geography of Newcastle and the Stockton Bight, and then you've got the Nelson Bay, which is like the Whitsundays of Newcastle, right? And then you've got the Hunter Valley, go south, and you've got Catho and the National Park, and that we are just surrounded by lifestyle central.
I actually overheard a couple of guys talking in a cafe just around the corner from Dave's place, actually. And they were both from Sydney, or one that just come up from Sydney, and a bloke, his mate, came up from Sydney that day, and he said, "Oh, I love it here." He goes, "It feels like Sydney, but like 30 years ago."
Yeah, it's.
But then
like
I'm looking at it going, I remember Newcastle 30 years ago, and I reckon it was better.
Yeah,
it's funny. It's how it evolved.
When I look back at growing up in Maroubra is almost maybe 10 years ago. Newcastle was like Maroubra growing up, so it's definitely behind the big city. And Maroubra is a nightmare now. It's just big high rise on the beach, and there's no one that lives there and all that stuff. But the people of Newcastle, I love the people in Newcastle. They're blue collar workers. They tell it how it is. It's a tight little crew. The town is big enough so you know everyone, or small enough so you know everyone, but it's big enough so they don't know your shit. So you can say g'day to people, but you can still be like a little bit anonymous. It's got that huge gap in the Great Dividing Range, which creates like northwesterly winds here all the time, which is really great for surfing. That's why Newcastle's a surf town. The most predominant wind we have is northwest, right? Because of that break in the mountain range behind us. That is the Hunter Valley.
Yeah.
So, I remember hearing a story once, Aboriginal story, where they said that, when the Great Lake used to be on the other side of the mountains, that an earthquake came and the mountains broke down and all the water flooded out, and that's what created all the sand at Berrubi and made all the fertile wine country, like with the land, right? Mm-hmm. Which kind of made sense.
Yeah,
and then I got on a satellite and looked at it and went, wow, I wonder if there could be like some... it was just one of those stories, from an Aboriginal elder, but it was kind of cool.
Peter Bosco,
yeah.
Incredible talent. I want to get him on. I reckon he'd be.
He's got stories.
He'd be
that
great.
guy.
I actually went to school with him at Broadmeadow.
Right.
He was about 3 or 4 years above me.
Okay.
Great soccer player. He was playing like reserve grade for Adamstown when he was 15, which back then was a big thing.
Yeah.
But he just all of a sudden vanished, and next thing you know, he was doing these great pictures.
He's an incredible photographer. I mean, there's every one of my other gigs, I'm the president of Surfing Newcastle. It's a non-profit organisation. We run the Newcastle titles, the Matara, King of the Box, all these competitions locally. And Bosco works with us. Like, he works with us at every event. He's the official photographer for the association. He's a lovely guy, and he's one of the most talented photographers in the world. And we're so lucky to have him take the pictures for the competitions. He makes it look so good, and he's like so dedicated. Gets in the water with his camera, and he's a water photographer as well as a land, but he loves the water, and he's out there for like 5 hours, and I'm calling out, Bosco, we got a bacon and egg roll here for you, and he's just waving to me going, I'm not coming in. He's a legend. He's a real Newcastle legend.
It was at times you were on a wave and you're looking out and going, this would be a good pick. Yeah.
There's lots of moments like that where as a surfer, when you're in a tube and that, you think, I wish I could take a photo of that. I had one photo that took me probably 20 years to get from inside the tube at Boxy with a GoPro. Just like did it, repetitively for years and years until I got the photo that I wanted, and it's on the Teza's Newcastle Surf Report on the Facebook page. So it's like the profile picture from inside the tube. It's really cool.
Who's the best surfer that you think? Like
that I've ever seen?
Well, we'll do this in two sections. One that you surfed with and against, I suppose, and just one your all-time favourite.
Yeah, I guess one of my heroes was Tom Carroll growing up, because Tom was a goofy footer and like me, and he was really powerful and fearless and very professional. I really kind of molded my whole act from Tom Carroll and tried to be like him. So he was definitely one of the early heroes. When I first saw Tom Curran turn up on the scene, like Tom was just next level. He was incredible when he turned up. He was like, from the future, and of course, Mark Richards, because Mark is like such an icon here. But I hung out with a guy called Brad Gerlach, who was a Californian surfer who I think he got up to number 2 in the world, but Gur used to come and stay with me, and we'd do the Australian circuit together during the late 80s, and he'd stay at Fingal Bay with me, and we'd surf Boxy all the time. We'd prepare to go up to the Stubbies, and then we'd go to the Coke Surf About together, and we'd go down to Bells Beach and stuff and do that whole circuit. And Brad was like funniest guy I've ever met, one of the best friends I've ever had, and one of the most beautiful surfers to watch. So probably Gerlach could be in there as well. Yeah. Beautiful.
Well, we're going to wrap it up with you just released another song, haven't you?
Yeah, with Ian Walker. We're a little sort of dynamic duo. We go under the name of Primal. So we've got a whole bunch of stuff we've been doing. Originally, it was Primal Rockstar when I was on The Voice, and then we thought, well, let's drop the Rockstar thing. It sounds a bit wanky. Yeah. And so then we just went with Primal, Primal. If you want to check it out on Spotify. And some of the old stuff's just under Teza, McKenna. But we probably got 40 or 50 songs together now. But our latest song, we sort of thought, after what happened to Bondi, because it's only just been made the other day.
Yep.
We thought, let's make something that's kind of punky and surf orientated and summery, and it's going to sort of celebrate the Australian surfing lifestyle and kind of remind us of how cool Bondi was before all that shit went down on December 14.
Yeah. Actually, when I listened to it this afternoon, I thought it's like it needs to be in the background of watching some big wave surfing or something like that.
Yeah. It's a surf punk kind of vibe about it, but and it's just artistically rewarding, this stuff. I don't, have any dreams of grandeur of doing anything with it. If something happened with it, great, or any of this stuff, but just to make it with Ian and I, it's kind of like we've got a big canvas and we've got a brush each, and we, I come up with the words a lot of the times. He comes up always with the music and the melodies. So we're a real good team, and it only takes us a day to make a song. So this is our latest song from Primal, and it's called Summer.
Brilliant. Thank you, Teza McKenna. Thanks for joining us on Incredible Lives, because you've certainly had an incredible life.
Thanks, Michael, and thanks, everyone. Appreciate it.
Thanks, mate.
Bring back those songs.